Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 87 of Shrigleytube Tv. If you're new to the channel, and welcome. If you're returning, thank you very much for your attendance, much appreciated. I've had a really busy week, been doing this engine for Gerald. He's picked it up and he's took it down to the docks now to go back to America, so that was all good. And obviously I've been absolutely overwhelmed with people calling and emailing me, trying to help me with regards to this lump behind me. It's still in the back of the van, it's not come out yet. I've not even touched it since the track day. I've been too busy with the job. But I just thought we'd start the episode by having a quick sort of summary of the next plan, which will happen in the next few weeks when we get time after we've done some more work. So I really am touched by the amount of people that emailed me and rang me, and I didn't manage to speak to everybody, so I will get back to you eventually. But lots of clever people out there who have got experience in the engine tuning world, and they wanted to share their experience and what they knew and what they had learned, and trying to help me get this to where I wanted to get it. So what I was going to say was, it looks like, because I changed so many things at once with regards to the new oil piston squirters and the offset in the bore and the inlet manifold setup, that really it's very hard to say what worked and what didn't. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll take it out, we'll pull it apart together, not now, but in a few weeks time, and we're going to check all the bearings, make sure everything looks okay, because there's been some mention of primary and secondary imbalance because it's all on the smash. The counterweight isn't in line with the rod at top dead centre, if that makes sense. So there's potentially an issue for a harmonic issue which could attack the bearings. So we're going to check the bearings out, and then what we're going to do is we'll put it back together exactly as it is, but without the oil cooling jets. So we can just see if we've caused a problem with windage, because I've had a very clever man on the phone, and he says, you think that the oil that comes out of the crank journals as the crank goes round would get flicked to the outside of the block because of centrifugal force. And I said, yeah, that's what I assume would happen. And he said, well, it works the opposite way. He said, the crankshaft's going so fast, it causes a vacuum which keeps the oil sucked to the crank, and it all goes round, and you get a lot of windage. He said, that's why everything that races is dry sumped. You know, it has fingers in there to pull the oil off the crank, return it to the tank away from the engine, because windage is power, you know, horsepower. So I'm really excited to see if we can sort that out by basically removing the windage issues, putting some sort of finger tray in there to catch the oil, and yeah, just get back on the dyno without touching anything else. Not going to touch the top end. We can slip the crank out without getting involved with the top end, and then yeah, just see where we get, see if we can get a learn. Anyway, get into a waffle now. So we're going to shut the doors on this again now and leave it for another 3 weeks, get on with some work, and I'll join you at the end of the video and we'll do a bit of a summary. Okay. Good evening, YouTubers. It's Sunday evening. I thought I'd start this week's video off early by I'll come in on a Sunday night, try and get ahead of myself, get my tools set up, get my job set up, so when I come in on Monday, I'm not having to dilly-dally, I'm straight into the job and getting on with it, because if Monday doesn't go well, you struggle to get the rest of the week done. So yeah, I've come in, I've just bored this block behind me. This is for Gerald. You might remember Gerald, he's from America, and he's actually over in the UK at weekends, so I'm trying to get his engine ready for him. So bit of a last minute thing, but I'll turn the camera around. So I wanted to say good evening. That button is it. There we go. Right. So if you remember, Gerald bought the Carter engine that was the last of the, well, it was the only proper full engine I've ever had that was an Ian Carter engine. It had that blue paint on it, which I blasted off. And it's the one that we ran when we did the 3-part series at Christmas time, I think about episode 20 or something. And I ran it on the dyno. It was a 998. It had big valve head, an R23 cam, etc. And luckily for me, I had already started the engine. I took the liners out, blasted the block, glued the liners back in, and I decked it. So I've come in tonight because I basically got a phone call from Gerald saying, I'll see you on Friday. I was like, oh, right, cool, see you Friday. So he's over in the UK, and we're going to organise the shipping of his engine at the same time. So I said, right, I'll get it done for you and on the dyno. So I've just bought it. It was a 998. I've bought it from 72.5 mil to 73, so it's just gone plus 20 thou which is 0.5 mil. And that's because this is what we call a thin wall liner block. So it's not a thick wall. It can't go to 74, which is 1040. It can only go to 73, which is 1012cc. So tomorrow I'll get the gas axe out and burn all that paint off, and then we'll get that in the blaster. I've got the cylinder head here. So just dug out of his box, and I thought, oh, better have a quick look at his head. Does it want seats? Where's it at? So it's a proper job, this. It actually says on it, Carter 1000 S/R VW, or WV, sorry, 4123. Don't quite know what all those codes are. I imagine the 78 might stand for 1978, not quite sure. Anyway, we're going to throw all this in the bin. There's nothing wrong with it, but we'll put it on titanium caps with some new springs and some steel followers. Also, we'll throw all the valves in the bin. We may change the guides depending on what condition they're in. This is the grey glue that I put on it, because if you remember, this is the engine that the piston had broken up. I ran it just for the sake of running it at Christmas time as part of me Ian Carter special I did last year. Or was it year before? Christmas of 23, wasn't it? So I put a set of wheel strings in it and some grey glue just to run it on the dyno. But all that's got to come apart now, and we'll change the valves and give it all a fettle. It's already got the support screws, because you remember me saying Ian was the inventor of the support screw that bridges the chamber face to the exhaust port. So that it's already got those. So we'll weld the head first, because it hasn't been welded there. I'd like it to be welded just for support, and then get that all cleaned up for him. Hopefully we'll get a tune out of it by Wednesday. Quite interesting. This is one of Ian's proper engines, where I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but if you look at the port, he puts like a flute in on the right hand side. Can you see it? And what that does is it sort of introduces swirl in the chamber, apparently. So I was educated. So it helps the fuel and air mixture to swirl as it comes in, just for better mixing, basically. So nice head that. I think that'll make a really nice head when we've got new parts inside it. And then a bit of an update. I've not done any YouTube on this. I can't believe I'd forgotten. I just got so carried away with getting ready for Race Retro. But this is Benoy's new 1200 block. So I've machined the block now for the liners to go in. So we'll get that all sweated together next week. This is actually out after the start of the CTCRC. So we're putting this on the back burner a bit while we get on with other engines, which I've not been videoing all of what I'm doing for other people, because some people don't like their engines to be on Shrigleytube for, just for one reason or another. So you have to respect the privacy that they don't want them on there. So that's absolutely fine. We just get on with them in the background. But this one, Simon's cool. He said, no worries, put what you want on Shrigleytube. So next stage for this block is I'm going to drill our water holes all the way around for the water to pass through from the original water jacket through the spacer blocks. And it's got a bit of an overhang here. So I was thinking we better clamp it on the miller and run a cutter down the side and just tidy it up a little bit, just so it all looks correct, It's not really going to give it a performance advantage. Just these things need to look right as well as be right. So got the liners to go in there. I broke its back. That's what I'll say. It's past the halfway mark as far as getting the block ready. I've done the rods, done the piston guided rods, done all the spacers for them. So once I've sorted the block out, we'll get a dry build on and see where we are now. I really am looking forward to running this one. Anyway, I think we'll call it a day at that. I'm going to go home to bed now, and we'll try and get some recording done tomorrow on Monday. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Monday morning. Well, nearly dinner time now. I've been busy on Gerald's Carter engine. I hadn't quite realised how special this engine was. I've welded it in the middle there, faced all the head bolt holes, and I came to look at the head a little bit more in depth, and I realised something. You see how it's on a stepped guide? Or a stepped valve, should we say. This valve is a 1.23, which we have seen before, or 1.210. But the inlet valve, that's an exhaust, that's an inlet, is 1.4. Now, normally you can't get 1.4 and a 1.210 alongside each other. You have to go 1.38, 1.210. But this has got 1.4 and 1.23, and I thought, well, how's he managed that? And then when I started to look, I realised this clever man, been up to no good, been up to more mischief than me. He's put giant guides in it, and they're offset. So he's probably made the cam carrier and everything to go with it. So yeah, wicked, absolutely awesome. So this engine didn't do anything when I ran it on the dyno. It was all right, you know, but it was just flat because it was a low. It's quite a big chamber. It's a 998, and you know, it had that wild R23 cam that we probably didn't have enough guts to run it to the RPM. I desperately didn't want to break it, you know. I just pulled it out of storage after 30 years. A bit of history. This engine came to me. It's the only full Ian Carter engine I've ever had, and it came to me when I bought the space frame imps from Nick Harmon. It was on a little trestle, and I thought he said it had come directly from Carter himself. But anyway, it obviously hadn't been refreshed because it was broken. The ringlands had broke at the top of the pistons, and if you ever watched the video from Christmas 23, we did the Carter special. Anyway, right, I'm waffling. So that's a bit of an update on the head. So we'll get... I've welded it now. Next step is to put it on the miller. We're going to skim it, recheck all the wheel string grooves are correct, just because we know everything's correct and there's no going backwards when we put it on the build, ready to go on dyno. And then over here, I've honed the block. So you can see we've honed that. And then I've just turned it on the end so that I can fit this. This is a Mark Maynard rear oil seal conversion. So it's got that to go in the back. And then we'll turn his crankshaft, and that'll mean that it won't drip oil in his nice driveway. So I'll crack on and I'll report when we get a bit further. Okay, YouTubers, it's Tuesday afternoon. I thought, I better stop work. Done some machining, brought everything into the build room, a bit cleaner in here, and about to start assembling this engine. And I thought, better do a bit of an update before we start assembling it. So this is the Ian Carter engine that Gerald's picking up on Friday to take back to America with him. And I thought I'd talk about some of its special points. So one of the bits that I really like, I love it when people pay attention, is this label looks like it's the wrong way around. Normally the Carter starts reading from the other side, which is what it does when it's in a road car. But because this was in a space frame imp, this was in the Nick Harmon car that used to race back in the day, because it's a space frame and all the back of the car came off, they put the Carter badge on that way around. That's what I think anyway. Another nice part was this on the back of the cam cover. So what happened was, before we got posh electronic rev counters, they used to use a rev counter called a Smith's chronometric, and it was basically a cable that ran all the way to the dashboard, a high-speed cable that ran off a little 90-degree drive. So that little peg that you see turning there, that went into, this is the original camshaft here, it should have a thread in it. Yeah, that had a thread in it. And then, did I keep all the bits? Yes, I did. So that screwed in the end of the camshaft. And then that little peg drove that. And that drove your rev counter. Isn't that just absolutely lovely? So I've kept all that for our man. So, I mean, he's never going to use it, but it's just nice that he keeps it with the engine, because I want the engine to stay. I even ummed and ahed about leaving the original R23 cam in it. Look at the duration on that. So, big power cam these, you know, they do hang on extremely well, like 9,000 plus, and they were still producing good horsepower. But what we're going to do is we're going to put him on a reprofile cam. This is one of my, well, I say it's one of Bob Jones's grinds that he did for me, called the BJ65, and this is a really good all-rounder. This works from 4,500. It should do the 80 foot-pounder torque and a good 100 horsepower. So we're going to put that in for him, because Gerald's going to run it in a road car. Now, in the ultrasonic tank, I've got the nicest pair of brass spindle twin 40 DCOEs that came with the engine. I'm just cleaning them at the moment, so we'll do them next. But I just wanted to go through what we've got here. So the crankshaft, it must have been a brand new one. It's been nitrided. It's absolutely bang on. Tolerance wise, it is right up on top limit. It rings like a bell, so I'm quite happy to use it. And it's on standard size, so all the radiuses are nice in the corner. It's a really nice crank. And it was sort of, this is an Ian Carter flywheel, so it was all balanced to that. So I'm keeping all that as one rotating assembly. These cam followers, this is the effort that Ian used to go to. If you look inside, I'll just put it down so I can zoom in on it. You'll see some very faint chatter marks. That's because he lightened them and then got them nitrided. But they're still a chill cast. So we're going to put them in the bin, unfortunately, because we're going to run it on a set of steel followers, because I know that they'll just never ever go wrong. And every now and again, these did go wrong. So we're going to put new ones those. They've got new springs and caps, got titanium caps. We're going to use his original pickup. Look at the effort that it went to there. It's got its own little steady bar. It's lovely. Clean all this up. This is the original sump system before mine came along, so we're going to reuse all that. I want to keep it exactly as it was when it came to me, barring the camshaft. I just make it more friendly for Gerald when he takes it to America and uses it. I'm even contemplating using the original rods. They'll be balanced end to end and they're just lovely. They're a matching set of 1 to 4, so there's never seen any aggro, and they've got lovely Van der Velde bearings in. We will change those for ACLs. Obviously we've got new pistons that are 20 thou bigger, so we'll put the pistons in. But yeah, the rods are lovely. So probably use those rods again. On the head, the last time you saw this, I just welded it where they crack, so I did a bit of strengthening there. I blasted the head, I've skimmed it, I've wheels ringed it, redone the wheels ring grooves so I know they're all uniform and flat. I have recut the seats and I've lapped the valves in, so they're all perfect now, sealing nicely. So we'll get a build on with the head. The block has had the line, well, this was done a bit of time ago now, but the liners came out of it. I blasted the engine, then I put the liners back in with fresh glue, clamped it all up. I've bored it and I've skimmed it, so it's at plus 20,000, so it's 73, and we should be able to zoom in on the hone, perhaps. No, maybe not. Anyway, you can just about make out the hone marks there. So the block's ready to go. I've also machined the back of it, as you saw earlier in the video, for a rear oil seal. So I'm going to put a rear oil seal conversion on it. These trumpets will be no good because obviously on the space frame car it had loads of space, but I'm not sure how much space the G15's got, so we're going to use a shorter trumpet, and I've got some nice original K&M filters to go on it. So we've got a nice Will Parry silencer and a lovely Jan Speed manifold. So I'm going to get all that cleaned up and try and get it all together, because really this needs to be all assembled, ready to run on Thursday. So it needs to be done by tomorrow night. And then on Thursday, we can give it a good test on the dyno, ready for him to collect it on Friday. Wow, busy week, but this is how things get done, so we're just going to crack on. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Wednesday mid-morning. Thought we'd have a quick update on the Ian Carter engine, just to keep you up to date, or it'll end up all built, and I'll think, oh, crikey, I've got no footage for Friday, or for Sunday, should I say. So this is the 998 that you've obviously been following earlier in the video. I've been doing bits of work on it. I've bored it, I've honed it, I've put the crankshaft in, it's all polished, checked all clearances, that's taut lovely. I have put a rear oil seal conversion on it so that it won't leak oil on his driveway. These are the new 73mm pistons that are from Mark Maynard, so these are plus 20 thou on 998, which gives you 1012cc. And as we discussed before, we could only do that because if we zoom in, you'll see it's on a thin wall liner block, so it couldn't go 74. Anyway, what have we got here? We've got some new ARP big end bolts there, the 1.5 UHL. So these rod bolts are the replacements for the bigger. These are 3H UNF, not the 5/16, which is standard. So because Ian had made such a nice job of the rods, and they are all numbered 1 to 4, they're a matching set. I thought what I'd do is I'd just, not that I suspect there'll be an issue for 1 second, but lots of time has taken place. So I thought what we'll do is we'll just put them on the scales and make sure they're all bob on. And I know I rave about Ian Carter, but you know, the guy was absolutely on it. I don't know, just 421. Look at that. Next one. Just, you know, he was bob on, wasn't he? He knew exactly what he was doing. Absolutely stunning. So, brilliant. When you see things like that, it just instills confidence, and you can see why everyone raves about Ian Carter, because everything he did was absolutely bob on. Behind me here, I've got the cam carrier. I mean, just look at the way he's made it. It's absolutely stunning. All little independent oil feeds to each of the cam followers, and just absolutely beautiful. That's got modern cam in it now. The cylinder head is over here. That's all faced and ready to go, lapped in, springs are in. Got some titanium valve caps on it just to reduce his reciprocating weight. Oh, that was going to show you. I found this on the head. It's definitely a Carter head, but CE7817. So I don't know what that means. Does it mean it was Carter Engineering? Normally it was yeah, it'd be Carter Engineering, won't it? Normally put CEP. I don't know what the P was for. Maybe it was performance. Anyway, right, we'll stop waffling now. We'll get on with assembling this. We've got to do some piston heights and then machine the pistons to suit, and then we'll get the head bolted on and get the rest of it put together. We'll probably do another video before we get to that stage. As long as I've got the sump on and the head on by tonight, which I work late on a Wednesday, then we're on target then, because I've got, that gives me Thursday to run it in, and then Friday we'll meet Gerald and give it to him. Okay, YouTubers, time for a quick update. I've been busy on the 1012cc Carter engine. He's got his stones and his rods in now, so they're all going round. We've got the front pulley on. It does turn extremely nicely. It's just got a nice bit of stiction now, whereas the mains are quite tight. Everything else is beautiful. I have made this what I call a close tolerance engine, because Gerald's going to use it in the road. Rather than giving it 4.5 foul clearance on the piston skirt and it rattling when it's cold, like the racers are, what this is on a 2.5 foul piston to skirt clearance, piston to bore clearance. So it's a bit tighter. I know you'll run it in gently in America, and it'll just be a nicer and quieter engine, and it won't use any oil with these. These pistons use a metric ring pack with like a 3-piece oil control ring, which is very good at doing its job. I rock him over gently. We're peeping the bottom end. Oh, this isn't working very well, is it? Can't do things very well one-handed. So there you go. It's I've just blue painted it, so I know I've tightened everything up. That's all done. It's all torqued up nicely. Everything moved beautifully. So that's all good. And then what I was going to talk about was the head bolts. So as standard, they use a UNC head bolt, and then for race application back in the day, used to fit these cap heads, which are great, nothing wrong with them. But obviously, you know, when we're torquing it up, this, bear in mind, this is going into soft aluminium. So Mark Maynard's had these made, which is a stud and nut kit conversion basically. And the UNC thread, you tighten that into the block, and then you use a nut and a washer to pull the head down. So obviously it's because it's not moving, it's already in there. You can get a lot better clamping force with the UNF thread than the UNC. So, for example, I've not got the exact figures, but when Dave Alave was around, that's my mate who watches over me every day, the Dave Morris, very clever man. He said to me, he did a calculation on a bit of like an old fag packet, and he said that the same clamping force with a UNF thread is 34 foot-pound. So it'd be 40 foot-pound as standard with a UNC. To get the same clamping force, you need 34, because it's a finer thread, so it's a finer pitch. Now, we actually do tighten these to like 38, 39 foot-pounds, so you're getting a better clamping force on the head. And it doesn't seem to bother it at all. In fact, it seems to work quite well. So that's what we've been doing for quite some time now. So I like these, very good. Anyway, come with a nice black washer and nut. Ideal for the job. Right, enough about that. I'm going to get the head on next, and then we shall get the sump on, and then we can have a look at the carburetors together. Good evening, YouTubers. It's Wednesday evening. Not got quite as far as I wanted to get. I was hoping we'd be at a stage where we were bolting carbs together tonight, but I got caught out with a few bits. Just, you remember I talked earlier about changing the cap head bolts to a UNF stud and nut kit. Well, as you can see, the thread sticks out, so I had to machine the bottom of the cam carrier to make it all go round. Anyway, done all that. We've got clearance, valve clearance, we've got compression, and it all goes round lovely. So the top end's done. So I turned my attention to the sump, and I thought, oh, we've not had a chat about this before. We'll talk about the imp girdle plate and the block strengthening kit. Now, there's two different types. One uses an aluminium block that bridges the load from the mains cap to this girdle plate, which I nearly knocked off the bench. And this is the Ian Carter type, where he uses a thread to basically bring the nut back up. What we do is we just use a straight edge and we just make sure that it's all in line. And then when you put the girdle plate on, like so, you tighten that nut on there, and then it just stops the whole lot from moving around. Now, obviously, it's quite a controversial thing with the forces that go into a crankshaft. In my opinion, you've got two types of forces. You've got, obviously, you've got 2 down and 2 up. So you're trying to, you get something called crank whip, especially on a 3-bearing crank where we haven't got a bearing number 2 or 4 like on a 5-bearing crank. We've just got the middle main and one at each end. So as it's going round and round really, really fast, you can imagine it probably starts to get a bit of a whip and a bend on. So any extra strength we can add to the job to hold it all in position is a bonus. Also, you've got to think the piston is always pushing when it's going round in a clockwise direction on this side. So we've got another set of forces that are all trying to push the crank out of the bottom of the block, obviously as you load the flywheel through the gearbox and the wheels. So it's pushing this way, so the crank's trying to get pushed out the bottom of the block. So I do think the block strengthening kit is a cracking idea. Anyway, I just thought I'd touch on with that so you can see what it's all about in the bottom of an imp engine. I'll continue getting it together, and I'll join you in the morning where we'll get the cars back together, and then hopefully we'll get a nice tune out of it. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Thursday morning, the day of retting, the day we're going to run. Before I started getting on with the carburetors, I was going to put the engine to one side, put the cam cover on. I've not done that yet. And I just thought I had to share another rave moment over the famous Ian Carter. Now, this is a standard imp sport relief housing with the bypass valve there for the oil pressure, and it has another one in here for the oil cooler in case the oil cooler was to be blocked. So I like these filter housings. These are my favourite type. They never go wrong. The spin-on ones, every now and again you get a spin-on fall off, but never one of these. And I was just looking and I thought, oh, it's some standard pressure relief valve, this one. This isn't normal. And then I was wire wheeling it and I thought, what's that on top? It says IRC, and I imagine that stands for Ian something Carter. High. And he's not saying hello, he's saying high as in high pressure. And what he's done, check this out. He's drilled it, because these are normally swaged over at the end so that when they're put together, there's like a plunger inside. This is, oh sorry, I should go back to the start. This is a pressure relief valve. This is what monitors the oil pressure in the engine. So when the pressure gets to a certain point, the piston gets pushed back and then that hole gets opened and the oil is allowed to bypass. It's just a way of regulating the pressure in the engine. Now, as standard, this would have been like 45, 50 PSI. But what Ian's done is he's took it all apart, probably packed up the spring or put a stronger spring in it, and he's put this little cross pin in so as to lock, and he's made a little collar to go in the end of it so it can't come apart. So it looks standard, but it's actually an original Ian Carter high pressure relief valve. I like that. I like that a lot. Right, I'll get the cards. Okay, YouTubers, finished the engine to a point. Gonna get on with the carburetors now. Now, I did want to do these with you, but unfortunately, with time being the way it is, I don't have time to set up the camera and stuff. We have done it plenty of times before, so if you look in the previous videos, there's a full DCOE and DHLA Delauto stripped down and rebuild. So these have been the ultrasonic tank, and a bit special. I want to talk about them for a second. I think I'm right in saying their origin is like Lotus Cortina. They're early Italian DCOE Webers, and they look like that, and they are a DCOE 2 matching tops, which is nice. So I've got all the bits here. I'm going to change the chokes out for 30s rather than 32 because Gerald's going to be on the road, so we'll keep the airspeed up, especially with the modern cam. It'll give him really good torque. He'll be able to drive the car really nicely. I've got some Cytec SK2201 kits. They're just a basic gasket set and needle valve, etc. Some springs and gaskets and all sorts in there. So we'll put all that in, get them bolted on the manifold, which I've just painted, and then hopefully we'll get a tune out of this before Okay, YouTubers, we've skipped a little bit of the video in just to get the job on the dyno and running. So he's running away happily now. I'm pleased to say he seems to be fit and healthy. He's got great oil pressure. Probably a bit too much really. It's running a good 65, 70 PSI there. But that's just how they used to run them with the old school high pressure relief valve when they were running Castrol R40, etc. So I'm not going to mess with it. It is what it is. and that's how Ian tuned it, and that's how I want to keep it. So I've since last spoke, the carbs have gone on, the manifold's gone on, we've made an exhaust flange and put one of Will's silencers on. I've run it up, it's done about half an hour to an hour now running, well probably more like half an hour to be honest. So we're just trying to put some gentle load on. We don't like leaving them idling for too long, so we've just been putting some gentle load on. I've not got full throttle on the cable yet because the linkage is binding up, which I've got to sort out, and also the advance is just totally wrong. It's doing all of its ignition advance at like 3000 RPM, so we need to sort that out. But obviously Gerald, I've got to find out what time he's arriving tomorrow. I think it's going to be around lunchtime, so I've got a bit of time in the morning to finish winding it up. But it's got no oil leaks, it sounds lovely, it's everything I'd always want it to be. So yeah, it looks like it's been a good one. Looks like I'm getting the hang of the job at last, you know. All I can say is, with doing these engines, I've got to be honest with you, if they go on the dyno and they've got an issue, whether it be the smallest of oil leaks or a big valve clearance that's gone noisy or anything, that's it. The money has gone out of the job. You can't make any money then, because you're then backtracking, taking it off the dyno to let another one go on that's been promised for the next week, and then it gets back on the dyno the week after, and it just goes on and on. So even though I've got to say I have been working, what's the word, we've not been answering the door, no one's come in. If anyone who's come, I've just said, look, I'm really sorry, I'm just dead busy, I can't stop to talk at the moment, because as soon as you lose your concentration, you make a mistake and then it catches you out. So yeah, pleased with that. It's all running, we've got a bit of time now to enjoy bedding it in. I'll sort the advance out, sort the full throttle out, and I reckon we might see some half decent numbers out of this. I'll just wind up a little bit. So it's only got about 70% throttle. 5.5 there. It's got no advance in it either yet, because obviously it's maxing out before it even gets to 3000 RPM, which is not ideal. Won't go past 6.5. Anyway, I'll carry on running him in, get these little jobs done, and then tomorrow we'll give him a final run, and hopefully we'll get to interview Gerald. Okay YouTubers, it's a bit later on in the day, and it's going very nicely. I've still got to tidy the plug leads up and stuff, but I've fitted the air filters, sorted the advance out, and I've got full throttle now, so starting to see a bit of torque. Bit rich at full there. I think the air filter affected it. Get to 7 there, he's holding a good 75 foot-pound at 7. We won't go dead high. 7.5. Falling off a bit. He's a bit fresh to be getting all this grief because he's on a tight bore, this one, so we've got to be a bit careful. We don't want to blow it up before our friend Gerald comes to pick it up. So just being nice to it. But tomorrow morning I'll go through some checks and then we'll give it a run together, and hopefully we'll see some good numbers up at 8, and yeah, exciting. Morning YouTubers, it's Friday morning. I've had a message from Jerry to say he's on his way to collect his engine, so got a bit of a tune out of it last night. I can't remember how much of it recorded. It's doing half right torque. We're going to go a bit further with it, probably with Jerry this morning. It's been really well behaved, to be fair. I've just been tweaking the advance, so I've narrowed the advance swing down, so we're running about 15-18 degrees at idle, and it's swinging to 33 when we rev it. So that's doing exactly what I want. It appears to be oil tight, which is most handy because I haven't got time to take anything apart and fix it. Just really interesting for me, this standard setup on this cam with these carbs is normally on a slow runner 45 F9. That's just always 45 F9. Occasionally they're a bit weak on the later carbs, the Spanish ones, and we end up on a 50 F9. On this engine, I'm on a 45, an F8 45, which is obviously the F8 is a weaker slow running jet than the F9, and I just don't understand it. I've tried it again this morning with the F9s, doesn't like it. Put it on the F8s, which normally wouldn't have enough fuel. So all I can think is it's something to do with the fact that it's on these really rare brass spindle early type carburetors. It's all to do with underneath this screw here, there's 3 holes that you'll see, and as the butterfly passes over them, it allows fuel past, obviously, for your slow running fuel, you know, before it comes onto the main circuit with the big Venturi. So it's something to do with that. We're not going to try and understand it, but what I thought I'd do is I'd just fire it up with you and have a listen. It picks up really well. I've got it so it picks up without any hesitation. It's quite nice. Should be a nice for your road car anyway. Okay chaps, it's Friday, dinner time. Everything's done, plug leads are done, exhaust straps done. Jerry's outside sorting out his box that he's got to put the car in. So I said I'd just do a quick run and a bit of a video. And it working quite well. I've got it to, basically it holds its torque down at 4,000, which is, I've tuned this thing foot-pound. It's not like setting the road tarmac on fire, but it is going lean at the top end. I've done that deliberately because with the carburetor compromise I always talk about, I need this thing to be clean at 4,000, and I've achieved that. So when he drives it, it won't be a pig, because he's going to be obviously driving to classic car shows, and you know, 4 or 5, it holds 57 foot-pound, which is reasonable. Yeah, so it'll be a nice drive for him, which is what I wanted to create, really. Anyway, I want to say no more, get it pulled off a dyno, and then we'll hopefully get an interview with you. Okay, YouTubers, the Carter 998/1012cc is in his little wooden box, ready to go back to his new owner's home in America. So I'm welcoming Jerry. Jerry, yeah. Sorry, is it Gerald or Jerry?
Yeah, either way, it's fine.
Either way, yeah. He's cool. He's really cool, Jerry. He's a real patient guy. We've been wringing the neck of his engine all morning, trying to get it where I wanted to get it. Finally got it sorted. Yeah. And yeah, you're off down to the docks. Are you today, Monday, or? Probably Monday. I think I missed my window, but you know, glad the engine's running really nicely now. Thanks for spending the time on that. No, not. I'm just sorry it was so last minute. It's only been for me 2 years. No, it was last year. Oh, was it last year? Last year, yeah. Yeah. Just, I knew that it could happen, and just because I'd already started it. So if you get a chance to go on Shrigleytube on the aeroplane, just yeah. I've done a full video all about it on Sunday night, so this will be tagged on to the end of the video. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy it, and it goes alongside your 1200 car. So you've got probably the best Carter collection that I know, you know. Maybe, yeah. Now this is the only genuine, like, full race with history Carter race engine that I've come across in recent times, other than Dennis Jones has got one, and you've got the 1200 one. Yeah. And I know of one that went to went abroad to a chap in, I think it's New Zealand, that was sold by my mate Nicholas. That was a 1200 as well. Yeah. So yeah, they're only slightly rarer than hen's teeth, aren't they? But yeah, brilliant. I'm sure I'm going to be very, very happy with it. It sounded fantastic on the dyno. Yeah. And looking forward to getting it in the car. I did a bit of a waffle on the dyno tune. I've tried to tune it more so it runs nice from 4,000, because I'm aware of, you're not going track racing, you are going to be cruising around the streets and terrorising New York, etc. Yes, you know? Exactly. That's exactly the intent. And is your daughter going to drive it as well? Yeah, she'll drive this. Brilliant. Yeah, so brilliant. I think she'll enjoy this engine as well. Yeah. I think what she would be looking for. So just tell her no more than 8,500, yeah? Yeah. 8,900. Occasionally. Brilliant. Well, thank you for being on the on tonight's show, Jerry. I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. All right, thanks, Andy. Cheers. Okay, YouTubers, I'm just on Saturday morning now, and I thought we'd have a quick chat about crankshafts. Now, over time, you build a picture up, and sometimes things stick in your head that you learn. You don't forget them, and then eventually all the pieces of the jigsaw come together, and you think you've got an answer as to why something is the way it is. So in front of me here now, I've got Mike Loveland's standard stroke steel Farndon crank. Now, as part of the service, when we clean the engines for refresh and refresh the bearings and valve springs, etc., I always take out this little grub screw that lives in here, and they're all the way across the engine. These are what we call the cross drill bungs. So the crank is drilled, and to bung it, they put like a little taper bung in, and this little grub screw goes in it and blocks the hole off. Now, on this crankshaft here, this is a crankshaft that was a 5 bearing original Laystall crankshaft that belonged to myself. I purchased the crankshaft probably 15 years ago or something, and I tried to make it fit as a 5 bearing. You can see it's got the intermediate bearings on it. I tried to make it fit inside a 3 bearing block, and what I did was I made 2 extra main supports. I haven't got any pictures, I have looked, from the girdle plate in the sump. So imagine the engine was upside down now. The strengthening plate had the 2 extra bearings, support housings. I line bored the whole thing, and then I fed it with -8 oil feeds from, because it was dry sumped, externally to, oh no, it wasn't dry sumped, it was wet sumped, but they were internal, the feed off the filter housing. With a bulkhead connector on the sump. So it fed the 2 extra bearings externally, internally, to lubricate them. And the engine worked well, and I revved it to 9,500 for a couple of races. I remember I went to Croft when the Imp Club was there, when they had their national weekend, and I had a good race there. I beat Benoy, and I went to Alton Park later in the year, and the crankshaft snapped. Now, when my mate was alive, my mate Dave Alave, he said, right, let's have a look at it, let's find out what's gone on. And then when he'd seen what I'd been up to, he said, well, can you not see what's happened? And the engine did used to go a bit tight when it was hot, and the reason was we were mounting 2 bearings from the spacer plate and 3 bearings from the block side. So with all the different expansion rates, even because we line bored it cold on Bob's Scow borer years ago, but obviously as soon as it got hot, because all the expansion rates were coming from different sides, it put twist into it, so it broke the crank. Anyway, we're diverting now. The point of this waffle is something I noticed over time, especially when I'm on the dyno, because I dump the dyno oil after I've run the engine. When I put them on a steel crank, the oil was always golden, not even discoloured, you know, after a dyno session. Just like brand new oil, you know, whereas on a normal cast crank, or not a forging crank, they were always a bit dirty, the oil. And I could never understand why until I was watching Alan Millyard. You've watched him, he's great, absolutely amazing engineer, another level, you know. The bloke makes things with a hacksaw and a file that you just can only dream of, you know, V12s and all sorts. But I enjoy watching all of his videos. He did a service on like a Honda C50, and he was showing me, or showing the viewers, how the oil filter system worked. And the oil filter was, you call it a centrifuge, so the oil gets spun into like a cup, and the idea is that because the carbon and the hard particulates in the oil are heavier than the oil, they get spun to the outside and the clean oil goes down the middle. And I believe the reason why the Imps run such clean oil with a steel crank is because the oil, when it comes into the crankshaft, into the mains here to feed the big ends, this is called, we call them sludge traps. Now, the actual, where this bung sits is past the centre line, or the oil feed hole, so it's on a bigger diameter, if you imagine it's going round. So therefore, all the muck gets thrown behind this bung, which is why I remove them and check them. Now, as it happens, because Mike looks after his engine really well, it's absolutely split mint. There's no, oh, you can actually, I tell a lie, I can see a little half moon of sludge in there. Oh, that's good. So I've just got this other crankshaft to demonstrate it. So the oil was, there was nothing in the sump at all. Oh, I can feel it. Oh no, I can't get it. Right, that's a bit disappointing. No, it's not going to come out either. There's a big slug of crud in there, but I've pushed it somewhere now. Anyway, so we call these sludge traps. This is what they're known as in the trade. It's a sludge trap. So because it's further past where the oil comes out for the big end, all the hard particulates in the oil that are heavier, more dense than the oil itself, get thrown and they get stuck behind the grub screw, which I've now just dropped on the floor. Right, so I'm going to have another attempt at this. This is a crankshaft I've just dug out. Obviously, I just explained it was broken. And I can see a big moon of slug of crud in there. So I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to attempt to get it out so you can see what I mean. It's really weird stuff. Ah, there you go. I've got a piece. Right. So there's the piece of sludge. And when I wipe it like that, see I'm wiping it with my finger, it's like graphite. It's got no lumps in it or anything. But that is the muck that's in your oil that turns it black. It must be like a mixture of carbon and stuff. I don't know what it is. But anyway, there you go. I just thought I'd share that with you and show you what these sludge traps do. So it's very important when we service the engines for a refresh that we take all the bungs out, we get a pipe cleaner and we clean all the crankshaft out, then we give it a bath in acid and then we hot steam it all, put the bungs in with some fresh Loctite, ready for it to go again. And then in theory any muck in the oil will then settle again against the grub screw, so it can be kept there and it won't damage the bearings. So yeah, there you go. Okay, YouTubers, it's Saturday afternoon. It's absolutely glorious outside, but we've got the heater on because it's time to start work on James Ibbetson's head. Now, James is coming next week, so hopefully we'll get to interview him on Shrigleytube because we're building his engine. He's going to come and help me put it together. He's been very, very lucky boy in that Mr. Collinson, that's Peter from Co-Sport, very, very kindly donated this lovely cylinder head to him. And it's a cracking head. It should make a, well, I say it's a cracking head. It's not quite how I'd like it. The chamber's pretty big and the seats are pretty low. So we're going to struggle a bit for compression, but we're going to try and do some sort of intruder piston to compensate for that. Now, it had been reworked, the head, so it's all fresh, but being the untrusting character I am, I'm going to redo everything myself. So I've already started by machining the inlet face at an angle, so we've got a nice straight run down to the port, but I need to reshape the inlet port. It's just not how I like it. So what I'm going to do, the reason I put the heater on, is to get some heat into this, and then what I'll do is I'll knock the guides out and we can do all the chamber work, all the port work, and I'll put the guides back in, and I'll recut the seats so we know they're all concentric to the guides, and then I'm going to put it on the miller. There's not an awful lot of material on the head, but I'll get another 25-30 thou out of it on an angle, try and wedge it to bring the inlet port even taller, you know, increase the angle for the air to go around this short turn. The short turn actually is not bad on this. It's just the chamber size is enormous. Anyway, look, you know, it was a gift. It's absolutely fantastic of Peter. He really is a cracking bloke. Looks after myself and James very well. So, brilliant. We'll get this guide set out of this, and then I'll crack on. And hopefully next week we'll get James on the interview. Congratulations, YouTubers. You've made it to the end of episode 87. Hope you enjoyed what you've seen. Been a bit of a chaos one, as you can imagine. I'm absolutely whacked. I've had a great day today. It's been Saturday. I've had no mither. Phone hasn't rang once. No one's called. I've just got on with the job. And yeah, we've made good progress. We've got quite a bit done on James's new engine. So machining's done on that. So when he comes on Wednesday, we'll hopefully have something for him to build together. And I've done a bit on Mike's engine as well. So it's been a good day. Now, I'm going to give you a date for your diary. This isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm going to mention it anyway. I'm really excited about this. This is my first round this year that I'll be able to go and watch the Formula 1 stock cars at Bradford, ODSAL Stadium. There's loads of information on the Your Stocks website. It starts at 4 o'clock on Saturday the 29th. So it's 21 days you've got to organise yourself if you've got petrol running through your veins, honestly, you cannot beat watching this type of racing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's an oval, it's full contact, it's on shale, it's absolutely awesome. I can't wait. It's really sad that I'm actually more excited about going to watch the stock cars than watching the imps go around, but that's just the way it is. So hopefully I'll see you there in the grandstand on the 29th, and if not, I'll see you next Sunday at 7. Bye for now.